Once upon a time in a distant land lived a young prince named Alexander. Alexander was the only son of the country's ruler, King Edward. He is a brave and intelligent boy, but he has one flaw. He has a very short temper. Growing up, Alexander spent most of his time studying, training to become a great ruler like his father. However, he was still eager to take the throne and often asked his father when he would be allowed to rule the kingdom. However, King Edward was a wise and experienced ruler, and he knew that Alexander was not yet ready to assume the responsibility of ascending the throne. He tried to explain this to Alexander, but the young prince did not listen. He was determined to be king, and he wanted it now. One day, King Edward fell ill and died, leaving Alexander to replace him as ruler of the kingdom. Alexander was overjoyed at this news and he eagerly accepted the responsibility of taking the throne. However, he soon realizes that ruling a kingdom is much more difficult than he anticipated. He struggles to make decisions and his impatience often causes him to make hasty and unwise choices. He began to neglect the needs of the people and focus only on his own desires. He spends his days in lavish parties and grand celebrations, ignoring the sufferings and struggles of the people. Over time, Alexander's rule became increasingly oppressive and unpopular. The people of the kingdom began to resent him and many conspired against him. However, Alexander ignored the growing troubles and continued to live a lavish life. One day, a young girl named Sophia came to Alexander's palace. She is a farmer from a small village in the kingdom, and she has come to beg the king to help her village. The village suffered a terrible drought and failed crops. People are starving and there is no hope for the future. Sophia begs Alexander to help her people, but he refuses. He told her that he was too busy with his business to worry about the problems of a small village. He brushed her off, feeling smug and satisfied with his decision. However, that night, Alexander had a terrible dream. He saw the people of his kingdom rise up against him, their faces contorted with anger and hatred. He saw his own face, twisted with fear and despair, as the people pulled him from the throne and threw him into the dungeon. When he woke up, Alexander had a concussion. He realizes that he is a terrible leader and has let his people down. He knew he needed to change, but he didn't know how. That day, Sophia returned to the palace, accompanied by a wise old man named Marcus. Marcus was a sage who traveled the lands, and he saw the sufferings and struggles of the people. He talked to Alexander, and he helped him understand the importance of empathy and compassion. Alexander succumbed to Marcus' words and he began to realize the mistakes of his way. He realized he needed to be a better leader and he began to listen to the needs and concerns of his people. He worked tirelessly to improve the lives of his subjects and he made many reforms to help them. He built a new irrigation system to combat drought and he invested in education and healthcare to improve people's quality of life. As time went on, Alexander's rule became more and more popular. The people of the kingdom began to trust him and saw him as a good and just leader. Alexander finally found the perseverance and wisdom he lacked before and became a king his father would be proud of. But Alexander's newfound wisdom was put to the test when a tyrannical neighbor declared war. Alexander faced a difficult decision. Fight and risk the lives of your people, or surrender and risk losing the freedom of your kingdom. After consulting with his advisors and considering the consequences of each decision, Alexander decided to go to war. He knows that the freedom of his kingdom is worth fighting for, even if it means facing an uphill battle. I fought. Despite being outnumbered, they managed to hold out and finally defeated the enemy kingdom's army. Alexander was hailed as a hero and his people rejoiced in his victory. But Alexander knew that his real victory was not in the war itself, but in the peace that followed. He worked hard to establish diplomatic relations with neighboring kingdoms and used his newfound wisdom to negotiate treaties and alliances that benefited his people. Under Alexander's leadership, the kingdom prospered. The people were happy and prosperous, and greatly respected and admired the king. Alexander knew he would be the leader he always dreamed of and that his father would be proud of him. In the end, Alexander's story became a legend in the kingdom. His name has been known for generations as a symbol of wisdom, courage and compassion. He faces many challenges along the way, but has proven that with enough perseverance and determination to learn, even a young prince can become a great king. From his mistakes,